Hello and welcome back to the People Podcast. I am Nasir Muhammad, founder of Ethos of HR. Over the last few weeks, I've noticed a growing trend on social media, especially on LinkedIn. Every time somebody talks about the upcoming Employment Rights Act changes, there seems to be someone in the comments saying HR consultants are scaremongering. Nothing is changing yet. Businesses don't need to worry. Most of this doesn't come in until October 2026 or January 2027. And to a point, I understand where that view comes from. No one wants unnecessary fear. Nobody wants businesses spending money on things they don't need. Nobody wants organizations making changes before they're required. But here's the thing. Preparation is not panic. And I think that's where some people are getting confused. Because the organizations that manage change well don't start preparing when the law arrives. They start preparing long before. Now, let me give you an example. If your organization was implementing a new HR system, would you wait until the day it went live to start planning? Of course not. You'd review your processes, you'd clean your data, you'd train your managers, you'd communicate with employees, you test things, you identify risks, and then you prepare. If your organization was going through a merger, would you wait until completion day to think about culture, communication, and employee engagement? Again, probably not. You'd prepare. So why is the employment legislation any different? Because what many people fail to recognize is that legislation doesn't just change a policy document. It changes behavior. It changes processes. It changes management capability requirements. It also changes risk. And that's where the real work begins. When people hear that some of these changes aren't due until October 26 or January 27, they assume there's plenty of time. And technically, they're right. There is time. But that doesn't mean organizations should do nothing. Now, let's be honest. How many organizations can update all their contracts overnight? How many can redesign their policies overnight? How many can train hundreds of managers overnight? How many can review every process, every workflow, and every employee communication overnight? The answer is very few, because organizational change takes time. Good preparation takes time, and leadership capability takes time. One thing I've learned throughout my HR career is that most organizations don't get into difficulty because they didn't know a change was coming. They get into difficulty because they underestimated the amount of work required to prepare for it. That's usually where the risk sits. Not in awareness, but in readiness. And this is where I sometimes smile when I read some of the social media commentary, because there seems to be a growing belief that talking about preparation somehow equals fear-mongering. That helping organizations understand future risks is somehow creating panic. I don't see it that way at all. In my view, that's exactly what good HR should be doing, looking ahead. They need to understand change. They need to assess impact. They need to help leaders make informed decisions. That's not scaremongering, that's planning. And what is interesting is that when organizations find themselves facing a difficult employee relations issue or a tribunal claim or a compliance challenge or a process that suddenly doesn't stand up to scrutiny, they then rarely turn to social media commentators for help now, do they? They call us, the HR consultants. They call employment lawyers. They start calling specialists. They start advertising for your manager posts. And then they actually call the very people who are or who were encouraging them to think ahead months earlier. And that's not because consultants have a crystal ball. We don't. It's because experience teaches you something. The most expensive problems are often the ones that could have been prevented. Now, don't get me wrong again. I'm not saying every organization needs to stop everything tomorrow and spend the next 6 months rewriting every policy they have. Now, that's not my message. The message is much simpler. Start understanding what's coming. Start assessing where the gaps might be. Start thinking about how your managers will need to adapt. Start considering what support your organization might need. Because preparation doesn't happen overnight, and neither does capability. The organizations that navigate these changes successfully won't necessarily be the organizations with the biggest HR teams. They'll be the organizations that start thinking about the future before it becomes urgent. Now, that's what good leadership looks like. And that's what good HR looks like. So if there is one thing I'd leave you with today, and it's this: preparation is not panic. Preparation is not scaremongering. Preparation is responsible leadership. Because when change eventually arrives, the question isn't whether you knew it that was coming. The question is whether you used the time available to get ready for it. Thank you for listening to the People Podcast. I'd love to hear your views on the upcoming Employment Rights Act changes and what organizations are doing to prepare. Until next time, take care, and remember, the best time to prepare for change is before you need to. Thank you again.